Last night, Bungie tweeted out an announcement that I don't think anyone was expecting based on Bungie's diehard commitment to the Checkmate game mode, but the tweet they published, it began like this. It said, based on player feedback, which is important I think, we'll get to that later, we're making some changes to Checkmate in tomorrow's update. Due to the amount of tuning, Checkmate will be moved back to labs. Next week will feature 3v3 Clash, which has been modified to reflect a fan favorite mode from the original Destiny, Skirmish. So they went on to explain these changes to Checkmate, and there are a lot of them, which is why Checkmate is being removed as the primary game mode in Crucible, where it has been for the last 6 weeks. So here are the changes specifically that they're making. We will also be adjusting all primary weapons to join hand cannons in having the same optimal TTK as they do in the base sandbox. So I'm going to stop right there for a second and unpack that a little bit. This, I think, is one of the main reasons that hardcore players liked Checkmate. Hand cannons, I mean, they're sort of the primary choice for seasoned and hardcore players, no doubt. Hand cannons got to keep their optimal TTK in Checkmate, while many other archetypes of weapons had their TTKs lengthened, further distinguishing hand cannons as the top dogs in the Checkmate mode. And I love using hand cannons, don't get me wrong. But the problem was that, I Sweat 69 could still 3-tap me while my sidearm needed to hit one more bullet than usual to put him down, or your pulse rifle, or your auto rifle, etc. Bungie says that according to player feedback, that feels bad for everyone not running a hand cannon. And I totally get that and also feel the same way. So personally, this change sounds good to me. Every primary weapon has a seat at the table, or no matter what your preference is, your primary can still stand out in Checkmate and not feel punished for being what it is. Then they go on to say, in modes like Clash and Control, when the Checkmate modifier is active, you will now start the game with 2 kills worth of special ammo. So 2 shotgun shots, 2 sniper bullets, 4 glaive shots, same as standard PvP. This part, I understand some folks being split on. Part of Checkmate is definitely the diminishing of one-hit kill ability usage and special usage. I see both sides here, but honestly, I'm not upset if they keep the original design where all special is earned and none is given. Ultimately, I don't think it's a huge deal though, because you still don't respawn with that ammo every time, right? It's just a little special out of the gate at the beginning of the match, not that constant 2 ammo per life rule that we have in standard PvP. They then continue to unpack more changes, saying we are increasing the amount of special ammo credit you get for assists and deaths, so you will get special ammo pulls more frequently. But on the flip side, we are reducing the amount of special ammo that you get from approximately 3 kills worth down to 2 to reduce snowballing. This part here is a bit of a give and take, right? You're going to earn special more frequently, but you're also going to get less special each time it gets delivered to you. So the goal here is the reduction of snowballing, which I completely understand, right? In Checkmate, if one team was winning by a lot, then that only got worse as the game went on and one team had a mountain of special ammo at their disposal and the other team had a special drought. It certainly made snowballing a problem, and this sounds like I think it's a fair compromise to minimize that effect moving forward. This next sentence was the one that I think was the wildest in the thread for me personally. This, I think, has the biggest potential impact on the game mode moving forward of all the individual changes. So they go on to say, we want the reduced uptime of abilities in the PvP sandbox that they currently have with Checkmate. They go on to say, but the current level of ability cooldown tuning made some abilities feel impractical to use. Ability cooldown penalties are being reduced from 30% down to 15%, and melee damage is being increased to allow 2 melees to kill. So this is kind of wild, right? They're cutting the ability regen penalty in half, and that's a serious change. So instead of your grenades coming back 30% slower than normal, now it's only going to be 15% slower, which won't feel as dramatic. Some people are going to hate this, right? For some folks, the ability checks and balances in this mode were their favorite parts of it, and forcing players to be selective about when and where they use their abilities made for a more compelling chess match with less needless spamming, and they really liked that. Personally, I totally understand that. A lot of people think I hate Checkmate, and I don't. What I did hate was Checkmate replacing standard PvP for more than a month out of the year. That I didn't like. I didn't like not having normal PvP as a viable option. And they eventually added it back in as like a drop-down menu selectable playlist, but it was barren with barely anyone there because of the difficulty of getting there. I actually don't mind Checkmate being on the table at all times for those who love it and those in the mood to play it. Just like when Momentum Control would come up in the rotation in previous seasons as a side option, secondary to the standard PvP, I love that. So I'm fine with them keeping the 30% penalty to ability regen if Checkmate is going to be a regular option in PvP. That doesn't bother me at all. I mean, I definitely like that ability penalty in Checkmate Trials, I'll tell you that. Not having every opponent automatically choose Bubble or Well was very nice. The second part of that last statement is worth mentioning too. 2 melees will kill again in Checkmate. I do like this because when the other team is snowballing special ammo and they've got shotguns and fusions, it felt really bad to outmaneuver someone and punch them twice and then have to go in for a third punch only for them to finally hit you with their shotgun or their fusion. So I'm down with 2 melee kills in Checkmate. Now the last thing they say to wrap this thread up is this. We will run one more Checkmate Trials lab later this season on February 9th with the new tuning, but Checkmate is not currently planned to be in the control node again. We will have the full details on everything that is changing with weapon archetype tuning and other game mode rules in the patch notes. And of course, they encourage people to continue to give feedback, right, as they play the new changes. So no more Checkmate in the main PvP node this season, as of right now. Now, as we know, all things are subject to change. I, for one, am glad that we get standard PvP back now, but I also don't dislike Checkmate, and I'm totally down to continue playing it as an option anytime. But I'm curious what you all feel about these changes. I know that's a lot. It was a long list of modifications to the rules and mechanics of the mode, so I'll be interested to hear from you all. It sounds like all the changes they made were based on feedback, which I appreciate, but there is a rarely full consensus in the community, right? So do this for me. Give me your one change they made that you're most happy with, and your one change they made that you're most confused or frustrated by. I'm glad the Strike team seems to be on top of things and making changes in real time based on community sentiment. That's always encouraging to see. There's also, just rewinding back to their initial statement at the beginning of this thread where they mentioned 3v3 Clash. It's specifically designed to mimic Skirmish in Destiny 1. I loved Skirmish. I lived in Skirmish. It was one of my favorite things to do. And depending on the map rotation they choose for that playlist, that could actually be a banger. I'm definitely going to be diving into that, playing that, seeing how it feels in Destiny 2, and seeing if that game mode aged well. And I would definitely encourage you to do the same. Alright, let's chat about Checkmate in the meantime. Be warm and well fed, my friends, and I hope to catch you in the Crucible.